Hi everybody, I'm Dottie Nolan with Eastern Kentucky CEP, and I would like to spend some time with you today talking about how to prepare for job interview questions. And once again, our goal with workforce development is to help you feel as comfortable as possible going through the interview process. So let's say you've already built your resume, you've applied for the position, and now they've called you for an interview. So what we want to discuss today are all of those questions that you may be asked during a job interview, and to help alleviate some of that nervousness and some of that anxiety so you do well during the job interview. So once we're preparing for the job interview and you have your outfit in mind, you have a ride to the job interview, you arrive on time, let's talk about some of those basic questions that they're going to ask you and how they all play into about 3 basic questions that all employers are going to use to get to know you and how you'll fit into the culture of their business. So basically, one of the questions that employers will ask will be, will you fit into the job? Will you fit in with the current employees that they already have on board? The second question that they will ask is, can you do the job? And those questions, once again, are based on behavioral answers. They're also based on your previous experiences and definitely your passions about the job. And then thirdly, the major question is, will you do the job? So when you're preparing for your job interview, keep those 3 basic questions in mind. No matter how they ask you the questions, what they're really wanting to know, can you do the job? Will you do the job? And are you going to fit in? So let's get started with some of the basics of preparing for job interview questions. Number 1, I just want to say, when you know you have a job interview coming up, the number 1 thing you want to do is start practicing answering those questions. So it doesn't feel as if you have going to reply in a robotic type of manner. You want to feel very comfortable with the answers, and you want to seem as if you already belong. So practicing those questions so the answers just come naturally, so you already have examples in your mind if you want to elaborate on any of the answers or any more of the questions that they've asked you. Okay, so once again, when you have your interview coming up, don't just roll out of bed and go to your job interview and think that everything is going to be great, that you're going to wing it and you're going to, have a slam dunk with your job interview. Prepare for it just as if you would prepare for being an employee. Prepare for your job interview. So let's talk about some questions that employers probably will ask of you, so you can be prepared to answer those questions without all that nervousness, and then second guessing yourself after the interview whether you did those things correctly or not. So number 1, during your job interview, once you sit down and whether it's a one-to-one interview, a panel interview, a recorded interview, a phone interview, or a virtual interview, usually all interviews start out with the question, can you tell me a little bit about yourself? Now, this question can be a tricky question, and a lot of people start out answering this question with just giving a ton of personal information about themselves, such as, I have 3 dogs, or, I would really like to work this type of job or these types of hours. I really enjoy this hobby or that hobby. So some individuals think when an employer asks, tell me a little bit about yourself, they think, okay, I need to let them know about personal information. And that is not what they mean at all. A proper way to answer this type of question is, my name is Dottie Nolan. I live in Perry County, and I enjoy traveling, so I wouldn't mind if this job is remote or if this job would actually require me to be in the field. I'm a detailed person. I'm also outgoing, so I don't mind interacting with other people, and I think I'm a self-starter. So don't fall into the trap of telling a lot of personal things about yourself in that question. So think about always, when asked questions in a job interview, always gear those answers towards how you can do the job, will you do the job, can you do the job, okay? And how you're going to interact with other individuals. So once again, when asked, tell me a little about yourself. It doesn't mean tell them your age. It doesn't mean tell them if you're married or not. It doesn't mean tell them that you've just recently had a breakup. It doesn't mean tell them that you have 4 or 5 dogs or 10 cats or what your favorite color is. What they're really wanting to know is, here are some skills that I have, and this is why I'm interested in applying for this position. This is why I would like to be an employee for you. Okay? So those are just some warm-up questions to think about. Also, employers may ask the question that can definitely throw people for a loop, and that is, tell me about your strengths and tell me about your weaknesses. Okay? So when employers ask, what are your strengths? Basically what they want to know, once again, is what types of skill set do you have that's going to help you be successful in this position and be successful for this agency or company. So once again, think about when they ask you strengths, you need to really think about what types of skill sets do you have? What are your best characteristics? What are your best virtues? For example, one of my strengths is that I'm an honest person. And I'm pretty sure all employers are going to want to have staff on board that are honest people. You may say, another strength that I have is I enjoy working as a team, simply because when you work as a team, you can learn a lot about your coworkers, their strengths, and how you can plug yourself into any type of opportunity or any type of task. They may ask you to talk about your top 3 strengths or your top 5 strengths. So keep in mind, they're not asking you who you think you are in your personal life or things you're good at, like I'm a good fisherman, I like to cook. They're asking what are some strengths that you may have that is going to benefit, once again, customers, employer, coworker. Okay? Also, let's think about the question, what are your weaknesses? Now, I know it's hard to admit what are our weaknesses, but when you start thinking about that question and you prepare for it, answering the question doesn't seem as intimidating as it sounds. So, I would advise against saying, I don't have any weaknesses, because I think everybody has some weaknesses when it comes to any type of new task or maybe meeting people new. So I would advise against saying I don't have any weaknesses. But let's see how we can answer this question that can definitely be of your benefit, and once again show them that maybe the weakness that you have can be turned around and also be a strength. So maybe you could answer this question in such a way that, I am an outgoing person, therefore I enjoy conversations. However, I always have to remember to redirect myself back to the task, and that if I want to further catch up with my coworkers, I can do that during my break or my lunch. That's a nice way to say sometimes I can be over chatty, but I can redirect myself back to the task that I need to be completing. Another weakness that you may want to that actually may be a weakness you have could be, sometimes I take on more tasks than I can handle, and then I figure out later that maybe I don't have the time to manage these tasks. However, I like a lot of projects, and sometimes I forget that some projects may take more of my time, or that it could include other individuals to assist me in an area that this is their strength. So once again, you have turned your weakness around once again to reflect a strength. Okay, so really think about those questions. What are my strengths and what are my weaknesses? And once again, apply that information, apply your response to the type of job that you're interviewing for. Okay? Always have that in your mind. If you're applying for a dental hygienist, your answers and your responses should be geared towards the environment that you may be working in, the types of customers that you're going to have, and the types of coworkers. If you're going to be working in a construction environment or an outdoor environment, then once again, gear those questions with the atmosphere that you're going to be working in mind. Okay? So let's move on to some more questions that employers may have during job interviews that you definitely need to be prepared for. Some employers may ask the question, where do you see yourself 6 months to a year? Basically, what they're asking here is, are you worth the chance of hiring if you think you may move on? Because employers don't want to deal with staff turnover. Staff turnover costs employers money, and it also puts stress on supervisors and coworkers until they find someone to fill that position. So, think about how you're going to respond to this question. Where do you see yourself in 6 months to a year? So, one of the ways that you could respond to this question is, I have always wanted to work at this place of business. I have always wanted to work here, and I can see myself definitely continuing to be an employee here and growing as an employee. Maybe someday I would like to see myself move into a supervisory role. Okay? So instead of saying, I don't know, maybe in 6 months to a year, I may move to Louisville. Maybe 6 months to a year, I'm not really sure where I'm going to be. Well, my friends and I have been talking about moving to Lexington, so I'm not sure where I'm going to be in 6 months to a year. Now, if you answer the question like that, they may not consider hiring you, even though you could be a good fit. But what you've told employers is that you're not 100% sure if you're going to stick around. So, I think we have that one covered. Let's move on to some more questions that employers may ask of you during a job interview. Now, I would suggest when you answer questions during a job interview that you avoid using yes or no responses. All employers would prefer that you elaborate with your responses during a job interview. So if you answer questions yes or no, they may feel like they didn't get enough information, and then they may ask, can you elaborate a little bit on that response? So we want to avoid that altogether. So instead of answering yes or no, be a little more detailed with your responses. Okay, let's move on to another question that most employers ask during job interviews. And this question is, how do you react under pressure? Because keep in mind, all jobs come with some type of stress, and they come with some types of pressure, especially when meeting deadlines. So really think about a time in your professional life, working as a team, working as a group, and think back how you handled a stressful situation or how you handled meeting a deadline under pressure. Now, you may be a person that thrives under pressure. So, one of your responses to this question could be, I think I do my best work when I'm under pressure simply because I find it a challenge. And I like that rush of adrenaline. I see myself as a competitor. So, working under pressure, working under stress is a challenge for me. I enjoy it. Okay? Now, you may be a person that really doesn't like stress in your environment, or you do not enjoy working under pressure. However, keep in mind, all jobs come with stress and all jobs come with pressure. But if you are a person that doesn't enjoy stress or pressure, once again, answer it honestly. And one of the ways you can answer this question is to say, I'm not a fan of stress and I'm not a fan of working under pressure. However, I do understand if I need to meet a deadline, that is how I will need to conduct myself. But I would prefer being a little more prepared. I would prefer being able to adjust my schedule. I would prefer to have a little more maybe teamwork or maybe a little more working alone so that I don't feel so pressured and on a timeline. So those are some of the ways that you can answer both of those questions, whether you enjoy working under pressure or you don't. You may also say, if you're not a person that doesn't like working under pressure or in stressful situations, you may say, my personality is a little more creative and it's hard to rush creativity. I do my best thinking when I'm not on a time frame. I do my best thinking and reflecting when I have a little more alone time or when I have a little more flexibility in my schedule. Okay? But also keep in mind, if you're working, once again, the job that you're applying for. Now, if you're applying for a job as an EMT, those are stressful types of situations. So your employer is going to expect that you can react and be proactive in situations quickly, that you can make decisions decisively, and that you can recall procedures and protocol pretty quickly. Let's say you're working as a photographer or you're applying for a type of position that involves photography or working maybe with children or working with the elderly, then you may have a little more time for creativity. You may have a little more of that individualistic time for reflection and planning. Okay? So once again, keep in mind the position you're applying for. Let's talk about other questions that employers may have of you when you apply for job interviews. One of the questions that almost all employers have is, why should we hire you? So once again, think about how you're going to answer this question. And basically what they're wanting to know is they are interviewing a lot of people for the position that you're applying for. So you have a lot of competition on your hands. And with this answer, you definitely want to highlight your skills, you want to highlight your strengths, you want to highlight your passion. For example, why should we hire you for this position? Lots of responses could be, I have always wanted to work here. This place of employment is my dream job. I have always heard about this business. I researched it online. I keep up with the changes and your involvement in the communities, and this is just where I see myself fitting in. I love the culture of your business, and I love your mission statement. Okay? Those are some responses that you could have to, why should we hire you? So keep in mind, a job interview is your time to shine. A job interview is your 30 to 45 minutes to an hour to let this employer know, educate this employer on why you are the better choice. Okay? Now, some employers ask the question, What do you know about my company? What do you know about this agency? Do you know the mission statement? Do you know what types of community involvement that we're a part of? So, once again, before you go to a job interview, get online, research that place of business, research what they're involved in the community, research their mission statement, research where they're located, how long they've been in business, how they got started, what's their story. So keep in mind, a part of you being a great employee is that you have a passion for the company or agency you're applying for. You have an understanding of why they're in business. Okay? Employers want to know and feel good about the employees that they're hiring, because a part of having employees that are going to remain employees, remain dedicated, have a sense of allegiance, are going to be those employees that know the reason the business has started, and they definitely see themselves fitting in there for hopefully a lifetime, or a chance for an intern, a chance for an apprenticeship. Another question employers may have of you during a job interview is, tell me a little bit about your personality. Now, I suggest that you take a personality assessment. There are tons of assessment online. Now, if you're an evidence-based individual and you like assessments that are researched, there's the DISC assessment, there's the Enneagram, there is the Myers-Briggs. There's a ton of personality assessments, and I think they are so fun. So if you have a job interview coming up, one of the suggestions I have is to hop online and maybe take a quick DISC assessment. Most of these assessments are free, and the responses will, I think, truly be surprising to you. You will learn about what motivates you. You can learn about how you can be impactful, maybe what career choices that you would fit in the best. So if employers ask, tell me a little bit about your personality and how you may fit in here. If you've taken a personality assessment, more than likely you know your dominant style and who you are as a communicator. Keep in mind, all employers hope to have good communicators on board. So the more you know about your personality, the more you know about how you communicate and how others communicate can definitely assist you with the job. So you may answer this question in such a way that, I've taken the DISC assessment and this is my dominant strength. And knowing my strengths, knowing how I can be impactful, and also knowing the other personality styles, I think can help me with working together as a team, definitely working as an individual, and once again, how I can fit into the mission statement of your company. Once again, elaborate on your personality style. I'm an individual that is curious, so I enjoy solving things. I enjoy knowing how things work. I enjoy studying research. I enjoy knowing data. Okay? So once again, your personality ties back into your strengths and into your weaknesses. Your personality may be a person that is compassionate, caring, that you're patient, you're understanding. And those are definitely some personality strengths that can fit in if you're looking into a career in healthcare. So know your personality. Look up those personality assessments online. They're super fun, and the majority of them are free. And all employers, not all employers, but many employers use personality assessments for professional development. Many of them use personality assessments to screen their employees, maybe during orientation. So you're going to be speaking your employer's language when you talk about, this is my personality assessment, this is my dominant style, this is my spectrum. So take a personality assessment online, so when you're asked questions about your personality, you can easily talk about those things without any anxiety. All right, let's move forward with more questions that employers ask of you or may ask of you during a job interview. They may ask, give me an example of how you would interact with an irate customer, okay? Keep in mind, more than likely, in your career, you're going to have interactions with angry customers or irate customers. So, one of the things you need to keep in mind is angry customers are just as important as happy customers. So, here is some advice on how you may approach this question. You may say, I'm not a fan of interacting with irate customers because they can be difficult. However, I've been in situations in my personal life and in school and in other areas in my life that I've had to interact with people that aren't happy. And here are some strengths, here are some techniques that I think works for me when dealing with an irate customer. Keep in mind, body language is important. For example, having eye contact with the person, actually listening to the person that's angry or irate, just giving them attention, letting them know that their concern is important. So, I think when dealing with an angry person, first of all, it's important to be aware of your surroundings. If you are paying attention to the person walking in the door, then more than likely you can see their body language, you can hear their tone of voice, and you can prepare yourself for an irate customer. So, you may have had an experience with an irate customer, maybe at a fast food place of business. So, you may recall on that information and that experience and answer it in such a way as this. Early on in my career, I had a position at ABC Restaurant, and this person's order was wrong, and they were very upset with me. And when I took them their food, they said, "This wasn't what I ordered. Everything here is wrong. Can't you do your job right? Don't you pay attention? What am I supposed to do with this? I'm not paying for this." So irate customers can be pretty dramatic. So then you may say, I apologize to this customer. I let them know that I was truly sorry, that I understand how it can be totally upsetting when you get the wrong food, especially when you're hungry and you don't have a lot of time. But this is what I can do to make it better. If you have a few extra minutes, I can definitely correct your order. Or I can talk to my supervisor and maybe take a little bit off of your complete bill. Those things may make an angry customer happy. Now, let's say none of those responses was beneficial. Then you may say, after talking with the irate customer about the food and giving this person options, none of this made the customer happy. And at that point is when I asked the customer, would you like to speak to my supervisor? Okay. Now, that may be a perfectly good response to how you dealt with an irate customer, an irate person. If you have no work experience, I'm sure that you can recall an irate customer situation, and maybe you can reflect upon that. So maybe you were at a grocery store and there was an irate customer, and maybe you watched how this employee interacted with the irate customer, and you learned something from that. So, for example, when answering this question, you may say, Since I don't have any work experience, I haven't dealt with an irate customer, but I have seen other employees manage an irate customer, and I watched how they paid attention to them. I listened how they I listened to responses that they gave this person, and options and solutions. So even though you may not have any experiences with an irate customer, I'm sure that you can recall an instance where you may have been in a place of business where you were involved with one. And also keep in mind, while you're preparing for your job interview, while you're answering those questions, lots of those experiences you have has been a part of your personal life. It's been a part of your school life. So you have a ton of experiences and a ton of conversations that you can have based on those experiences. So also keep in mind, just because you haven't had work experiences, you've had a ton of personal experiences that can definitely fit into any question that an employer asks you during a job interview. Okay, so let's address other questions that employers may have of us during job interviews so we feel comfortable while answering them. During job interviews, some employers may ask or tell you that the shift that they need you for is either first shift, second shift, or third shift, that it may involve some weekend time. Keep in mind, if you want to work and those shifts aren't really your favorite shifts or your ideal shifts, keep in mind that those shifts may change. So instead of answering those questions like, there's no way I can work on the weekends, or I don't want to work third shift, instead of, putting stipulations on your employer, another way to answer those questions could be something like this. I would prefer to work first or second shift. However, if I need to work third shift for a while, I wouldn't mind. But if there were ever an opening for first or second shift, those are the shifts I would prefer. Okay? So what you've done is you have assured your employer that you don't mind to work that shift, but you would prefer a different shift. Okay? So once again, that helps the employer think, okay, this person, we can fill this position with this individual even though it's not their favorite shift. And if they work out, we can move them to a different shift. Okay? Some employers may ask this question of you: what was your favorite subject in school? And why was it your favorite subject? Now, if you say, Lord have mercy, I hated school, there was nothing about it that was fun, I was so glad to graduate, I'm not sure that employers may be okay with that response. So really, once again, take some time to think about, what was my favorite subject in school and why? So you may say, my favorite subject was drama class, but and the reason I enjoyed my drama class was because I could have self-expression, in a free environment. I could be silly, and that's normally not my personality, but in drama class, I was allowed to, be a speaker. It taught me how to be a public speaker. It taught me how to just have fun and enjoy different scenarios, and also studying the artists. Okay? Maybe your favorite class was English or literature. So once again, instead of saying English was my favorite class and leaving it at that, allow a little more response. such as English was my favorite class because I enjoy spelling, I enjoy grammar, I enjoy writing my thoughts on paper. I see myself as a detailed person. Think of those things, especially if you're applying for an administrative assistant position, or if you're applying for a receptionist position or a secretary position. Your favorite subject may have been math. And once again, if you're applying for any type of position that requires you to work with numbers, such as accounting, your employer may want to know that your favorite subject was math and that you enjoy working with new theories, you enjoy working with numbers, you enjoy working and to find solutions. You enjoy equations. So I hope that I've assisted you with answering, with helping alleviate some questions that you may have of how do I prepare for a job interview? What types of questions are they going to ask me? Am I going to do good at this? So keep in mind, before any job interview, you want to prepare. You want to practice. You want to get online. There are tons of questions online that employers may ask, example questions. Print those off. Practice those with a friend. Practice those in the mirror. Maybe take a personality assessment. Know your strengths. Know your weaknesses. Know things that you're good at. Know a little something about the company that you're applying for. And instead of dreading your job interview or just rolling out of the bed and winging your job interview, be prepared for it, because that is your time to shine. That is your time to educate the employer. This is why you should hire me for this position, and feel good about it. The last thing I want to say about job interviews is once your job interview is over, I would maybe give the next day sending the person a thank you email for interviewing you, or how about putting a thank you card in the mail and sending it to the person that interviewed you. That's a nice little way to let the employer know that you understand common courtesy, that you understand how to follow up, and that you were very appreciative for the job interview. Those things could speak loudly to an employer, and it may actually be the icing on the cake to get you the job. So thanks so much for joining me today. I have enjoyed this session, and I look forward to answering more of your questions and helping you prepare for employment. Thanks so much, and have a great day.